Okay. And that's just going to keep doing that. All right. Thank you for those who are watching this on the recap, and for those in attendance today and those in attendance online. We just wanted to take an opportunity to really get students together, and we want to do this more often. Just a little history of this program. It used to be that we would start with a cohort in the summer, and it was face-to-face just during that 3-week time period. And what it allowed for us to do was we would meet from like 8 till 5, and then usually we would have activities in the evening and whatnot. So students really had an opportunity to connect with faculty as well as each other. Now, since we have transitioned due to many more, at the time we had a lot of teachers and they had summers off. That's how we could afford to do that and have that kind of time available for it. But we transitioned to transition to it being more students who are in coaching, and so summer coaching prohibited us from being able to do that. So we've switched to fully online, which in many ways has been valuable, and we've seen enrollment increase because of that. However, it's come at a cost of connection to other students in the program. So we do want to talk to and get any feedback about things that students may be interested in as far as participating with our cohort. And we want to do things more often like this so that you can engage with people who are in your classes. And one of the things we're going to talk about today, given that Macy, who's here, is brand new this fall. Ashton has started last spring, so she's got familiarity and has already started what we call the project in lieu thesis. You will be starting that in the spring, and right now you're going, what on earth is that? Just feel blessed that you didn't start when she started in January and was like, welcome to the program and start on your project. I think everyone knows the way that our program works is everyone takes the same courses at the same time. We frequently get asked, when's the best starting time? There is no best starting time, and that's why the program is beautiful in that some people who come in the summer, right in the middle of research methods, would say, wow, I was so thankful that I started with research methods, and other people will say, wow, I'm so glad that research methods was at the end. So it goes both ways. I could certainly see somebody saying, man, I wouldn't want to start in January with the project in lieu thesis right off the bat, but on the other end of the token, you get 2 full years to work on your project. Well, you have 2 years regardless, but being introduced to it at the beginning, everything goes through that filter. So today, really just want to introduce the faculty for those who haven't got to see us personally. Dan Drost, who is with us on online here, is actually the assistant dean. He was formerly a member of this department. He's still a member of this department as far as teaching load, and he teaches the project in lieu of thesis course every spring. Macy, you will actually have him as your instructor because we do rotate around. We found it's best through some trial and error when we would have one person work with someone on half the project and then hand it off to a new person. There were some horror stories that happened with that. I still don't know that Patty Gandolfo is very pleased with me because Dan was working with her, Dr. Drost was working with her, and so then I got handed off and I was like, hey, why don't we do this component? And that was not what they had agreed upon. And so we quickly switched her to Dr. Drost. Hey, Sam.
Hello.
So glad that you are joining us as well. We're just doing introductions. Dr. Drost is he's the assistant dean. He's working in the dean's office, but does teach our project in lieu of thesis. Dr. Todorovich is involved with our master's program, but he's also the coordinator of the fitness and sport coaching undergraduate major. He is a full professor, former chair, lots of experience in the field, both as a researcher and as a teacher. Dan Drost was, or Dr. Drost was also a teacher for what, 20 years?
15.
15. So Then myself, currently in the role of department chair, I will be able to teach a course per semester, and I'm hoping that allows for me in the future to return to teaching in this program, and as I am the program coordinator of this as well. So you guys will probably, well, you'll hear from all of us, but you'll see Dr. Todorovich teaching more of the courses. I will be doing more of the program coordination, and then again, Dr. Drost helps with the project and the thesis. So just real quick introductions, because we only have three students. But if we could have Sam just introduce yourself, and then we'll have the two in the room, really kind of where your undergrad was from, and really what your career goals are.
Okay, bear with me. I'm holding an infant while we're talking.
Awesome. That was a new class this summer.
Summer was very interesting. Coming off of maternity leave with a little bitty one, but it was nice. And she seems to like computers, so I think it kind of rubbed off on her, so it works.
And you did your undergrad at UWF, correct?
I have two undergrads, yes.
Okay.
My first undergrad was in exercise science at Huntington College, and then the second one was fitness and sport coaching, of course, at UWF.
And what are you hoping to ultimately do career-wise?
Well, I actually want to be an athletic director over rec sports.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got.
So
and that really could tie into as we talk about your projects today. You know, Ashton being the only one in the room, having started the project, we can have her talk about hers. But this is also an opportunity to kind of maybe ask some questions and get some idea about, you know, what's the expectation of those projects, and certainly would say to tie that to your interest area, because we have some flexibility there. Well, again, thank you for joining us. Macy, go ahead and where you come from and background and what you're hoping to do.
Okay, so I got my undergrad at and then I came down here for a graduate assistant in the application office, and I plan on working
Working in college athletics. Sorry, my camera is all over the place. All right, Ashton.
I'm Ashton. I got my undergrad here at UWF in education. My goal is to possibly become a professor. I like teaching.
She's been also helping out with our online, doing some grading in those courses, and we're hoping to have her actually teach one of the courses in the spring. So excited for that. Well,
and winning defensive player of the week honors.
Yeah, thank you.
And she's got her senior night this week. And my screen's frozen. Okay. So in the spring, you all will meet with your advisors. If you have not scheduled something with Chris Powell, your advisors actually switched from Miss Ashanti to Chris Powell. And so you will need to work with them to, ultimately you're going to sign up for these courses, but they still need to release your PIN. So you can write this down. Everyone, again, is taking the same courses. So you will sign up for physical activity program development that's going to be taught by Dr. Todorovich, and then sign up for your project in lieu of thesis. And we're going to talk about, there's two sections of that in which one you'll sign up for in just 1 second. But Dr. T, can you go ahead and just talk briefly about the physical activity program development course and what they can expect with you?
Yeah, sure can. The course is what it's about. It's about how to develop a program. We'll learn about setting up the different elements from the we're design the program, the policies, the procedures, personnel, and how to look at it, to evaluate it, and be able to run it. And the idea is that once you finish that course, you'll be able to walk out and be able to use those skills in a college setting, or as a professor, or in a rec center, be able to help develop and work. Even though it's physical activity program development, it also, if you're already in an existing program, it's how to look at it, be critical about it, and make effective changes.
Awesome. And then the project in lieu of thesis, and again, with Ashton having some, we'll just have her briefly describe what she's at least started. She's looking a little puzzled on that.
You just
Um,
compare it.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Well, we won't necessarily put you on the spot with that. But the project in lieu of thesis, as with any of the things, and as Dr. Todorovich just alluded to with the physical activity program development, the project in lieu of thesis is something that is going to be specific to your area of interest. And that's the beautiful thing that we've been able to embed with all of our courses, is whether you are an athletic trainer, whether you are working with wanting to coach a particular sport, whether you're working more in the marketing aspect, rec aspect, wherever it is, that you can utilize the athletes or the students or the participants or the clients based on what your area of interest is. So you can, one, focus every assignment towards that for the most part, and two, with the project in lieu of thesis, you can develop something, and the whole idea behind it was something that would contribute to your field. Sorry. So there would be a contribution to your field. So that can range from a number of different projects. We've had students who have done very in-depth literature reviews based on some sort of concept or theory that they would like to know more about that ties in with teaching or coaching or something in an athletic performance area. We've had people that have developed handbooks of some kind, depending upon what it is that they're wanting to provide a training for. We've had people do in-service trainings, develop content for that. We've had individuals that have, we had a teacher who has been in adapted settings for a very long time. He created a bunch of YouTube videos and some activities and things of that nature. And again, this is a project that's done over 2 semesters and really should be done over the entire 2 years. So anybody who's watching this, just be reminded that while it does take place within a semester, you are not held to only work on it in that semester. So you propose it in the spring of your first spring, and then ideally work on it through the remainder of the year, and then you can finish it up in the second spring. Now, having that said, there is enough time allotted because we know people have very busy schedules, and it's hard enough maybe just doing your 6 credit hours per semester and in the summer as is. So that's why we've split it up over the 2 semesters, so that if you do start it in the spring and you don't look at it again until the next spring, that's absolutely fine. You have enough time to be able to do that. But this is not scaring anybody. This is the one area of not taking it seriously that has been a hang up for students to be able to graduate. And partially it is because it is dependent upon you to propose the program, work with the faculty to get that approved, and then whatever it is that you propose, you're doing in the second time that you're taking the course. And because it's on your schedule, we've seen a number of students, not that anybody on this call would do this, but a number of students who end up waiting until late March or April to start on a project that is going to take every ounce of the whole entire semester, and then they do not graduate on time. We have allowed an incomplete in the past. That does give you some additional time, but the issue is many students at that point are wanting to go on to jobs and start things and cannot start because it's dependent upon you having a master's degree to start the job. And your master's degree is not complete until you complete that project. And so again, that's not to scare anyone, but it is just to make sure that everyone takes it seriously, that when you get to that portion, it's on you to complete what it is that you proposed. And we're going to hold you to whatever it is that you have proposed. Dr. Drost, anything that you'd like to say about the project in lieu of thesis?
I would just kind of add, you had mentioned an incomplete. That actually has become very, very rare as of late.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, students that get incompletes usually don't end up finishing. So the students that are active and engaged during the process, they generally, they get it done. So.
And thank you for bringing that up. Now, because of the way that we want to make sure the students are successful, the way in which students need to finish is to retake that course for the second time, or excuse me, the second portion of it. But that can only be done in the spring semester. So if for whatever reason you do not get things done by May and incomplete's not granted to you, you would then have to re-enroll and repay. And at that point, because a lot of you I know are on GA matriculation waivers, that would be out of your own pocket. So again, I'm not meaning to be negative, not meaning to scare anyone, but I do want to just let you know the reality of some students have run out of steam right at the end. And I think it's just because simply poor planning. And what you can do to benefit is reach out to the faculty who you're working with on this. And Dr. Drost and Dr. Todorovich are not going to be offended if you are emailing them to set up Zoom calls, to talk through your project, to send multiple drafts. The worst thing you can do is not communicate all semester and then send them a 40 or 50 page document at the final countdown there in April and say, here it is. It's not going to likely be approved simply because you haven't talked about any of these ideas, and the likelihood that you've turned in without any guidance a fantastic project is very, very slim. And it's not saying we're simply going to hold it off because you waited to that long to turn it in. Hey, if you want to gamble and turn in something, but the likelihood, again, without any guidance from us, you're going to be missing some key components of what we in our expertise are going to lead and guide you through. And I'm including myself in that, even though I'm not teaching the course. You can certainly brainstorm with me and get an extra set of eyes on things, but keep in mind, the instructor of record will either be Dr. Todorovich or Dr. Drost, and everything runs through them, just so that we can make sure that communication is fully kept appropriately, and that's for your best interest. Go ahead.
Can I point out also that incomplete we talk about is not automatic. There's a series of steps that have to go through, things that can be approved, and if the project's just not going well enough, you just don't pass. So don't assume that you can just naturally have an extra amount of time. That's not a guarantee.
And just because you do a project doesn't mean, I'm assuming that's what you were saying, Dr. Todorovich. I didn't hear it all, but people finish and think they're going to pass, and they get done, and it's not done.
Right.
So get your things done on time. You know, Dr. Todorovich and I can be of great help to you, but you run a giant risk if you're not getting it to us and not setting up meetings to understand what needs to be done to pass this class, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and while you get a great deal of help if you seek it out, part of getting a master's program is that you can work on things independently and be successful and do that kind of stuff. So we're probably not going to be college. They haven't heard from you this week. We haven't done that with your graduate students near the end of your program. You've got to be able to produce and do those things. So if like Dr. Worth was saying, if you just go and you just don't do anything, we're not going to be checking in on you all the time. We might occasionally, but we're not going to hold your hand on that part. We'll hold your hand as long as you're putting in work, but that's the extent of it. So
There were students, for example, last semester that I met with weekly that came to my office, and then there were other students that almost never came, and the caliber of their completed project was vastly different.
And you are creating content, but it also has to be based on best practices, sound literature. And so what we've had in the past is people just make something up, and why that's a problem is it's not indicative of a master's level education for you just to pull things out of your brain. And in most, if not, well, all of those situations, it's not accurate because you're not the expert in the area. And even experts who write textbooks and develop programs, they're still citing research and original work that's been done in that. So that's what students do by default, is just type out and say, hey, I've created something. Or they have a lot of holes in it. And so they say, hey, I'm creating a camp curriculum. And what the students or the athletes will do is they will come in for 2 weeks, but they don't create actual curriculum. So what they're missing is a lot of the meat of the projects. They do a lot of skeletons, but what we're looking for is if you're going to propose, say it is a 3-week camp, and that would not be a project, but it needs to be very in-depth of what would be a completed curriculum for that. Go ahead, Dr. Joss.
I would say a very common issue that I see is in that first semester when students start proposing their ideas is for me to ask, how is that making a significant contribution to the field? Or how is that something that we don't have that we now need? And I commonly get, well, it hasn't been done before. And in 3 minutes, I can find that it has been done many times before. And so the whole idea is kind of shot because the person didn't do their homework. They just had an idea and they just kind of went with it. So like Dr. Todorovich said a while ago, this is a master's level culminating project that you're kind of expected to spend some time thinking about. It's not just something you just, oh, here's the assignment, you do it. It's got to come from your brain.
And then the last thing that I'll say, unless you two have anything else to contribute to it, because students work on things on their own without getting guidance, sometimes what happens is something that's actually kind of dangerous, is they will collect data. And so we've seen a number of times where they have, especially if they've done anything with children, we are legally obligated to go through what's called an IRB. And that's not the expectation of this project. There doesn't need to be any human subject surveying anything. But if students wish to do that, we can certainly work with you, but there needs to be appropriate channels. And so time and time again, somebody says, hey, I've interviewed 5 coaches and I've got this information, or I met with parents, or I met with students, or whatever. And we're going, first, time out, you can't do this. We need to go get an appropriate IRB. And secondly, all the time that you just put in was wasted because it's not collected the appropriate way. So that's not to scare anyone. Again, this is to help you all. This can be a well-oiled machine if you go through the right avenues for it. But anything else before we move on?
I just want to say one thing just about work courses in general, and suggest some of that is that a lot of our coursework, a lot of the assignments that you do in graduate level work are deceptively easy. You look at the assignment and say, oh, this is easy. I can knock this out in a few minutes. And then people haven't thought through the rigor that really goes in the question and the kind of answer. Maybe at an undergraduate level, that the responses you get are acceptable. But I spend a lot of time, if you don't hear from me, and nobody in this room really does very much, that's probably a good thing, because there are some students that I'm really spending a lot of time with, talking and conversing with about just making sure you got enough detail and information and enough work to make that happen. So remember, a lot of graduate school work, a lot of our assignments, and including even this project, are deceptively simple assignments. When you say, oh, we'll do a project on these parts and everything, but they're very complex. I tell people that graduate school is kind of like, let's take a paperclip. In high school, you learn that a paperclip puts pieces of paper together. In your undergraduate level, you might learn, oh, it's made out of this metal and it's curved this way and it does this. At a master's level, you start looking at, oh, it's curved this way because it produces these physics and it has these kind of alloy that has these other elements. At a doctoral level, you get down into, even well beyond
I
that.
was gonna say, if you can go deeper than that on a paperclip, I'll be
Well, you
impressed.
can, you can look at alloys and how it's made, the history of it, and who does it, and the different size shapes and the impact. That's what the doctoral level is. But you're at the master's level, so you're more than just giving a response. There's got to be some more graduate level rigor behind it.
Well said. So we mentioned just briefly, and we have been able to offer 2 sections for starting last year and going to continue with this. Just because the project is so in-depth and wanting to make sure that you guys can get the attention that it deserves, we've split this up into those of you who are in year 1, you have not even started the project yet. You're going to be with Dr. Drost. He's going to be your instructor for this spring for that project, and then again in spring of 2023. For those of you that started last spring, so anyone who is in the program as of last spring, and that includes prior to that, but I guess you'd be finishing up this fall if that was the case. But you, well, that's not true, sorry. Regardless, you're going to continue to work with Dr. Todorovich. So if you started with Dr. Todorovich, just take, a note here. You're going to sign up for section 13987. And if you're with Dr. Drost, any newbies, brand new, you don't even know what this project is, that's you. That's 11835. Again, Chris Powell is going to be communicated this, but inevitably we have people in the wrong sections. I'll make sure to take a double look at that to make sure everyone's in the right place. But so don't be offended if you get an email or a text from me that says you've signed up for the wrong section, withdraw and get into the correct section. All right.
I think Dr. T and I will probably also look at those as well, because it's just easier. Like, yeah. I mean, Dr. T doesn't want to work with first years when he's focused on people that have already planned with him.
Right.
So, and I don't want to work with second year people when Dr. T worked with them for a whole semester. So we'll be watching them also.
And I've got every single student written down on 2 separate lists already too.
Good.
Be able to know who's supposed to be where. Certainly want to open this up if you guys have any questions, because that's kind of the purpose of this meeting as well. But any future functions, and for those who are watching maybe this after the fact, if you want to shoot an email, but any interest in essentially what are graduate students looking for when you come to this program that we have not been able to meet yet for you? Is it professional opportunities? Is it social opportunities? What would be beneficial to you all? And I realize we've only got 3 students who are currently live, so our feedback might be limited, but anything that you guys can think of that you would enjoy.
I think with where I'm at in the program, if I didn't have the connection with the volleyball team, it would be hard to get observations done. So maybe some connections with other coaches so that you can observe more than just one sport.
Okay. Awesome. We do have a movement academy available on campus as well for anybody that would want to utilize that. But certainly we do have good relationships with all of our coaches. So any of you on here, particularly with your systematic observation course and the other one that you're working on now, analysis. Thank you. Those might be 2 avenues that you say, hey, I need access to a population. We do have students that are observable here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or a number of different practices that we could reach out. So that's a really good.
And we're back in schools now too.
Right.
Yeah.
We do have that, but we did ask early on, so I think we're okay for the most part this semester, but it did, she's right. It definitely takes some juggling, some work, and we're not proactive.
Yeah. And we do have people that are in a variety of places too. And so
some of we don't have connections with the local. We know a lot of people who want to teachers, so
right.
we have that, but
Other things.
well, I have 2 things.
Sure.
If I can chime in. First of all, I'm excited because this summer there's advanced research procedures that's being taught, and that has historically been a heavy stats, quantitative type class. We really learn a lot in there. And I got a full disclosure, I really enjoy stats. I'm a nerd in that area. I do qualitative too, but just numbers are fun. And stats are fun. But that course is going to change, and someday will probably be a whole different course, because coaches and teachers now are particularly learning about sport analysts. You know how a lot of times you'll see this is an analyst, they're taught the data being collected and they're analyzing data. So sport analytics has become a very huge topic. So rather than just being just the pure stats and analyzing sports related, analyzing concepts related to our area, just from a staff perspective, it's going to use statistics, but we're going to focus that course more on sport analytics, how to collect good data, how to use that data, how to make decisions from that data for sporting performances and other stuff. So that'll give you a skill set that's being utilized more and more and more. Like I said, people are being hired in decision sciences for sports teams all around the country. In almost every sport, from soccer to football to volleyball, there's just a lot of them. So that's one thing I'm excited about. Now, so that's it. Y'all can ask a question about that. But the other thing that I'm particularly concerned about is I'm really glad we're having this town hall meeting. But do you have ideas for us or suggestions for how we can connect you guys as students better, so you're part of this community instead of just taking classes and moving forward? That's a goal of ours that we're working. Sam, you too.
If I can remember to unmute myself, that might be good. Well, honestly, I like the fact that y'all are doing this online, because I don't have the luxury of getting over to the campus. So even if it was like a meeting here and there, just to kind of talk to each other about different things, even if it's just faculty or people in the classroom, just to kind of help keep us on track or give us different ideas about stuff that's going on. Because kind of being out here and not being on campus, you do kind of feel out of place and you do fall behind, which kind of stinks sometimes. But I like the fact that y'all do reach out. And like I said, if y'all had more of these little meetings here and there, it would benefit people like me a lot.
Awesome. And we do have a number of students who are coaching in other communities, or teaching in other communities. So, and perhaps we can even look at some different time slots, because I know some people were literally at baseball practice today during this time slot. So maybe being able to do it in the afternoon or evening.
Well, I can tell you something I suggest, even if we can't all meet live, or if we do, that's fine too, record it, is that maybe if we're doing like a project with it, so we're going to a conference, stuff like that, we take 1 or 2 or 3 students, like the 3 in here, and you all just give a little update on what you're doing. You know, hey, I'm doing volleyball, and I'm working for Dr. Worth, and I'm doing this, or you know, working over in recreation. Just an update about who they are and what's going on. I even record that and share it with everybody. Having open discussions on some platform where people can just ask questions. And it's really important, because you can get lost and siloed in online program. And this is a very, everybody who's coming in this major, graduate of this, are working in very social fields. You know, you don't work at home with a coach very well. And it's hard to do, for example, or teach, and which I'm not teaching, of course. But that's what we're trying to look for, is how to connect you guys. And also, you want to have those connections just in the workforce going forward. So ideas are helpful.
Well said.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say it is helpful, like knowing, like I feel like more students are doing it. Like I know Ashley, she's like doing volleyball, but I don't know what else like other people are doing outside.
So maybe everybody put their information in, kind of like a directory of what's going on, you know.
Like career goals. I also think it'd be kind of cool, almost like a Facebook version, but just for specific, like where you're at in your semester. Like, am I in the part where I am doing my project with thesis? And if I have a question, can I send in a video and explain it? And like maybe somebody else had that question. And I think it's easier to get across like somebody speaking. I would love face-to-face, but for people that are traveling, being able to have like a dialogue about it.
You know, I like that outside of the moderated discussion groups in classes that have a specific purpose, something where it can be more spontaneous, even if it's like, hey, I'm gonna be in Orlando, I understand you coach down there, can we get together and chat about something? Where does that organically happen? But I don't know the platforms for that.
Yeah, I mean, we use GroupMe, so if that could be specific to like a instructor running it, whether
Sure.
for classes, I don't really
We could just have a program one, I mean, because you guys are all in the same courses.
know.
So there would never be a reason other than once people graduate, we could remove them from those, that grouping list. But yeah, I think that'd be a great idea, and students could ask questions about assignments or due dates or clarification, or we could just put, you know, whatever's going on. Yeah, I think that,
Is there opportunities in that for breakout rooms, for let's just say you do want to talk, for example, that you can make that happen?
Yeah, so you can, if somebody asks a question, I could find her name from that list and I could probably message her. Or like DM. Yeah. Or the GroupMe.
awesome. Yeah, we could have that set up today.
And I agree. I think one thing that also be very valuable is the director of students, because you might be surprised if he's actually in a program that you don't know. Can we do that?
I think as long as we just give people's permission to include that, and we'll just, same thing, I'll send out an email asking who's okay with being included on the GroupMe, and then who is okay with, you know, providing
Their name, contact info if they want it, what they're currently doing work-wise.
Right.
You know, stuff like that.
And that's something we can keep up. I know at the University of Wyoming, where I did my undergraduate, that instructor there, Jane Jenkins, still keeps up a directory from dating back. I mean, I was class of 2001, but there are people on there from like 96 and earlier who are included in that. So to know where, and that's alumni all over the nation, where they're teaching, and it's just kind of cool to be able to have that access. And it helps us to be able to follow up with where you're at, or maybe even set up future, you know, internships or whatever. So,
Seeking jobs, job stuff on there too.
right, yeah. Yeah, if anyone's ever looking for a teaching job in Wyoming, I'd probably get an announcement once a month or so. Wyoming's fantastic. Just stay away from roads. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are nearing the end of our allotted time, and we want to respect people's time, and we thank you for participating, and for those who are watching maybe the delayed viewing of this. But any other questions, comments, things you'd like to know about the program that we didn't cover? Any last words of wisdom, Dr. Drost?
I don't think so.
Okay. Dr. T, good. All right, well, thank you all again for participating, and we will have the GroupMe and some information out, and please share any questions that you have that we can continue to make this program better for you, and look forward to meeting with you all again.